Hello, and welcome to the Office of the Patriot. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. My name is Myron Ibarra, and I'm your host. Today's topic is going to revolve around policing and my thoughts on what's happening to peace officers and law enforcement departments throughout the United States today. This monologue is not going to be an absolute condemnation or blind praise for law enforcement. My goal is to report what I see as issues surrounding what's happening today in law enforcement and to offer possible solutions. To be completely transparent to my audience, I am a retired peace officer of 29 years. I was employed by the California Department of Corrections from 1988 through 2005, and from 2005 to my retirement in 2017 by the California Division of Adult Parole Operations. I've worked virtually every position you can work in a state prison as a uniformed officer. I've also worked as a correctional counselor and a correctional counselor supervisor, and those positions are responsible for all classification actions within California prison systems. In 2005, I left the state prison system and went to community corrections as a parole agent with the California Parole and Community Services Division, also known as PNCSD, which was later renamed to the Division of Adult Parole Operations, or DAPO. As a result of my exposure during my tenure, some of my views on this topic are going to be biased, but then everyone's experiences color their perception, thus lending to their own bias when they have a story to tell, and I'm no different. However, I believe my perspective gives an inside view as to some of the thought processes peace officers may be experiencing while on the job. So, why are peace officers and departments being vilified and attacked both physically and as organizations? Just a little over 20 years ago, peace officers were hailed as heroes of the people, and that was never more apparent than the adoration peace officers received following September 11, 2001, and rightfully so. Crime was down, morale was up, and cities were safe. However, I started to notice the tide changing just before I was about to retire, right around 2015. In California, that was just after the passing of California Assembly Bill 109, also known as AB 109, and Proposition 47 in 2014. I began seeing consequences for criminal behavior being reduced or removed entirely. This timing of the tipping of the justice scales caused many peace officers to retire early or to just quit, biding their time to submit for their pensions once they were of age. These people left law enforcement entirely, venturing into new careers that were less volatile. In fact, new peace officer recruitment is down significantly in most major cities, especially those that are governed by Democrat politicians. I've also seen a reduction in college enrollment into criminal justice courses, meaning that it appears that there are less people interested in careers in law enforcement. Positions that were vacated now may not be filled for some time, leaving the officers who stood behind the burden of taking up all the slack. Now jump forward 22 years. Not only are our streets unsafe, but now peace officers are being attacked. Sure, police are sometimes attacked by criminals in the commission of their crime, but today, police are the targets of both lone wolf attackers and leftist mobs. Politicians on all sides of the aisle who are supposed to be advocating for peace officers and lawful discourse are catering to those groups and calling it righteous behavior or peaceful protest. And that's not the only issue. Peace officers are out catching people committing criminal acts, placing them into custody for their day in court, only to see them back on the streets they just arrested them on even before their shift ends. This is because of unrealistic bail reform laws and or the prosecutorial departments of many major cities being filled with leftist ideologues who are willing to subvert or disregard law in favor of their political agenda. So why is this happening? I believe it's the current federal government's desire to do away with state, county, and community autonomy in the role of policing. And this process is called the federalization of police. You see, virtually every peace officer throughout the United States swears an oath to the United States Constitution as well as to their state constitutions to uphold the law, to preserve liberty and justice. And therein lies the problem for those politicians who seek to change the United States from a democratic republic to something else. Every state in our nation maintains their own sovereignty. Having a decentralized executive branch is exactly what our founding fathers intended with the United States Constitution. The federal government's attempt at the consolidation of executive power would require all the states to acquiesce their sovereignty, and that's not something that will likely occur. So, then their alternate goal would be to fill those critical spots with those people who are devoid of any ethical character and are willing to sell their soul for money, power, and or prestige. These are just a few of the major issues peace officers are dealing with today on a day-to-day basis for years on end. The working environment of law enforcement is taxing, and it will cause some peace officers to forego their duty, also known as deliberate indifference, and or to obey orders by their superiors that are contrary to their oath. It's a difficult job, and I've said it before, nobody dials 911 because they have good news they want to share. People call the police because they have a problem. They have a problem that they are not equipped to handle. This requires an officer to go to these problems, which are volatile situations with limited information, limited resources, and an expectation they're going to resolve the problem. Now, I'm not letting all peace officers off with a pass just because the job is tough. They knew it was tough going in, and peace officers should always be accountable for their actions, both good and bad. But I do see many officers stuck between a rock and a hard place when it comes to carrying out the orders of corrupt politicians and department heads. If the officers don't do what they're ordered to do, they risk their job, their livelihood, and that means that their families are at risk as well. If they do follow these orders, they forego their oath. Fortunately, it wasn't a decision I had to make during my tenure, nor is it one that's easy for me to advise on. What I will say is this. I believe if you find yourself being ordered to use police powers unethically, such as conducting a red flag law warrant search, or disrupting a lawful protest because it's contrary to the existing government policy, or being ordered to stand down during an active shooter incident, you should seriously consider leaving that department for one that still honors the rights of the people and the law. Balancing the spirit of the law with the letter of the law is the key to good police work. When governments, cities, and departments become so corrupt that good officers can't be good officers, then it's time for a reset of those systems. Our founding fathers understood this well. No entity, even our government, should ever be too big to replace. To those peace officers who are still fighting the good fight, keep up the good work. Your efforts do not go unnoticed, especially today. I want to thank you for tuning into today's video. If you enjoy what was presented today, please take the time to subscribe, like, share, and most of all, comment. I do take the time to read all the comments that are submitted. As always, have a great day and stay safe out there.